I'm Tom Baer. In part one, we learned that since God is the creator, he owns all people. As a result, all humans have a duty to obey him perfectly, and we should fear him. In this video, we'll see that nobody has responded appropriately to God. Consider how God views this as Linda reads the following verse.
This people has a defiant and rebellious heart. They have revolted and departed. They do not say in their heart, "Let us now fear the Lord our God, who gives rain, both the former and the latter, in its season. He reserves for us the appointed weeks of the harvest."
In light of all these things, all people should say to themselves and to each other, "Let us fear the Lord our God, who gives rain, both the former and the latter, in its season." But instead of fearing God and trembling before him, people tend to live as if God does not care how they live. But the next verses show what God thinks about our lack of concern.
All of us, like sheep, have gone astray. Each one of us has turned to his own way. The wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who suppress the truth in unrighteousness, because what may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools.
God says that people tend to live life for themselves rather than for him. He says that we tend to block the truth of him out of our minds. As a result, we don't give him the credit he deserves for all that he does in our lives. Living this way causes us to lose sight of who he is and what we are like. We tend to compare ourselves with other people to measure our goodness rather than wonder what God might think of us. But God's assessment of us is much different than our own assessment, as the following verses indicate.
Being filled with all unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, evil-mindedness, they are whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, violent, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, undiscerning, untrustworthy, unloving, unforgiving, unmerciful, who, knowing the righteous judgment of God, that those who practice such things are deserving of death, not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. There is none righteous, no, not one. There is none who understands. There is none who seeks after God. They have all turned aside. They have together become unprofitable. There is none who does good, no, not even one. Their throat is an open tomb. With their tongues they have practiced deceit. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Destruction and misery are in their ways, and the way of peace they have not known. There is no fear of God before their eyes.
Try to imagine what this must look like to God. He graciously brings us into existence and provides for us. He makes himself known to us through creation and through conscience. Instead of fearing him, people live as if he does not even exist. Contrary to what most people think, God considers this lifestyle hostile toward him. The following verses show that he considers us enemies, aligned with Satan himself.
We, people, were dead in trespasses and sins, in which you once walked, according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit who now works in the sons of disobedience, among whom also we all once conducted ourselves in the lusts of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature children of wrath, just as the others.
If God considers people to be his enemies, shouldn't we be concerned? In this next passage, we get a glimpse of the danger involved for all people that God considers to be his enemy.
Why do the nations conspire and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth take their stand, and the rulers gather together against the Lord and against his anointed one. Let us break their chains, they say, and throw off their fetters. The one enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord scoffs at them. Then he rebukes them in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath.
I hope that you are starting to understand the seriousness of this situation. In part 3, we will learn about God's promise to avenge his enemies. It is my hope that you begin to sense that judgment is pending, and then take advantage of God's way of salvation that's outlined in part 4.